Hey people, Stephen here. Do you ever wonder why the Roman Empire embraced violence? Do you wonder what was the foundation of such an epic empire? Do you ever think that Roman myths and Christian stories could be connected in any way? Well, the founders of Rome, according to ancient sources, are Romulus and Remus, who both sprang from the Latin lands. They are written in the histories of Livy and Plutarch, where they are highly respected in Roman life. I will talk about three parts of this story that will be workshop of Roman values and customs. Also, these stories will compare stories of the Old and New Testament within Christian doctrine as to show the connection between the two beliefs. While Christian is religion, its stories can reflect on the myths of Romulus and Remus. It shows how Romulus and Remus was born, and it shows the importance of vessels within producing the foundations of Roman society. The ideas of the vessels were a pre-Roman religious role that was adopted by the Romans. They were to remain a virgin through their actual religious duties, so the pregnancies of a vessel is a violation of religious doctrine within Rome. Typically, vessels would stoke the eternal fire which remains in many Latin temples. The myth that this vestal, which was the virgin daughter of the king, were the seeds of Romulus and Remus, may indicate that this empire was of God's creation. If Mars, Roman god of war and agriculture, with a grandfather Rome, could spell Roman attributes of the proclivity of war and of agriculture, as with the expansion of the empire through whether that be the Punic Wars or the other battles that they went into, or the building of vast aqueducts. A deity back can lead to religious justifications of a superior society, as one shaped by the heavens. On the other hand, it could have laid the foundation of Christian doctrine and storytelling. The birth of Jesus Christ was akin to the story of the Virgin Vestal, where Jesus' mother Mary was a virgin who gave birth to Jesus Christ. The difference is from the Roman story, Mary, uh, the Vestal was not a religious. I wasn't so good, but we're gonna one, two, three, go. What differs from Roman story is that Mary is not of a noble earth, and she only had one child. Nevertheless, it shows the implication of God's action that brings the foundational figure within culture, whether Rome or Christian. It could be the case that Jesus or early Christian writers knew of the story of Rome and found inspiration within those myths. Chapter 2, Building of Romulus. In the Parallel Worlds by Plutarch, he writes his quote, and this shows the fight between these two brothers and shows the great tragedy of Romulus killing his brother Remus. Um, Remus was maddened by the trickery of Romulus as he claimed he saw more vultures than Remus, but Romulus was one that presumably killed him in that myth. This part of the story could show Romans' admiration of trickery, or may indicate the consequences of destroying or harming the city of Rome, even in the eyes of justice. The part is quite jarring from the story, as from the text seems just like a simple killing of kin is natural. While the Romans may imply lying as an aspect of gaining power, the later explanation that Rome is above family and justice. On the Christian and Judaism view, there is a story of Cain and Abel. Reading the Roman story of Romulus and Remus reminded me of this story, as the connection of two brothers seemed a little too similar. The jealousy of Cain of God's admiration of Abel gifts sparked a comparison of Remus' same jealousy and anger that led to the mirroring consequences of murder. Cain's sin of murder did not rhyme with Romulus' murder for the eyes of the Roman murders in some ways, is likely a virtue. While the story of Cain and Abel comes from the Old Testament much earlier than Roman myth, it can still point to either inspiration or commonalities of these myths. Going back to Plutarch, we see Romans' proclivity to incorporate, and incorporation within Rome is likely its biggest strength. Within the vast territory of Rome, Rome herself could remain relatively peaceful within how large the empire was. The idea that all can become Roman citizens likely allowed for greater integration of other conquered people within Roman society, discouraging mutiny against Roman states. To not gatekeep its citizenry increased the willing human capital within society, which may have innovation of institution within Rome. On the other hand, Rome's ambivalent citizenry could not compare to the forgiveness under Christian ideals. Before Romulus called for equal terms, he did a raid on the Siberian women to strengthen Rome's population. For the most part, Christianity is not meant to harm others. It preaches more forgiving rhetoric. However, while it could become a Roman citizen if you follow the Christian during the early stages, would likely get you torn apart from lions within the Roman amphitheater. Not being a Christian in today's world is frowned upon within the Christian world during the Middle Ages. The Spanish Inquisition, one was severely punished for not being Christian. The adaptation of Christianity into Rome as Constantine I could mark the bleeding of Roman custom within Christian culture. The aspiration of empires such as the Spanish, English, and the Americans to use religion as a tool for violence could be inspired by the Romans. I think a quote from Crash Course World History 10 uh, or the Republic, or which was it, says Julius Caesar didn't create empires, empires created them. Empires as an institution might morph the fundamental rules of what we see within culture and myth creation. Did Roman culture create the empire, or did the empire morph into this culture, or was it random? One cannot know for certain, but I see the violence as carried by empires, or not just empires, but institutions for its own way to maintain its supremacy. Religion, culture, or myth might either hold the institution back or give it authority to justify its own existence. Conclusion: Roman myths might have recreated the notion of empires as their proclivity for growth and expansion through violent means. It is possible that empires cannot grow without these myths to justify and to maintain the glue of Roman society and culture. One could also say that these myths creations share commonalities that either point to how empires grow in the first place or the shared human legends from years ago. Romulus and Remus highlight the story of the foundation of Roman Empire's customs and beliefs. Their old, their stories could be morphed from the understanding of other stories, like the Old Testament of Judea, or inspire others, the New Testament within Christian society. I am not an expert, and these questions are beyond the scope of this video. However, it is interesting to look at these commonalities, nevertheless. Thank you for watching.